What's going on, guys? It's Flux in here, and today we're going to be reviewing To Yomi. Now, To Yomi was made by Flying Wild Hog Studios, and it is a 2D side-scroller samurai hack and slash beat 'em up style game. The game is $20 on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. It is also on Xbox Game Pass. I have played the game on Xbox and both PCs, and the game runs fine on both platforms, and from what I've heard and seen, it runs just as well on the PlayStation platforms. But anyways, let's get into these reviews and let's talk about the highlights and some of the drawbacks of the game. So I'm gonna do this review in segments, and the first segment is going to be about the plot or story of this game. So you start off as a young boy, some stuff happens, and you come back a few years later and you play as the adult version of the boy at the beginning of the game. I will say the story of this game is pretty generic. It's your typical revenge plot. You're not going to find anything super unique or award-winning here. I will say the thing that helps it stand out amongst the sea of other revenge plot stories is there is Japanese folklore and Japanese samurai themes in this game, which is really cool. We don't have a ton of samurai games on in the market, especially ones of this genre. So it is, even though it's generic, it's still different enough that it will stand out and not completely bore you to death. The other thing is, the overall game is really short. It's 3 to 4 hours depending on your skill level. So you're not going to be bored of the generic story before the game's over. It does not overstay its welcome. The story is basically there to kind of get you from point A to point B and add a little bit more to it than just sloshing through enemies and getting to the next level. So let's talk about the combat and gameplay of this game. So let's start with the cons before we get into the pros, because the game has some of both. So the cons of the combat. Something feels off with it. I don't know if it's the animations or the timing, the way the game handles it, but honestly, I feel like there's times where the game eats your inputs. You press an attack button or a block button, and it has a delay, or it doesn't go off when you press it. So that kind of is one of my biggest gripes with especially combat games or games that are solely based on combat. You have to have that smooth. The other thing about it is you get all these different moves and all these little cool things you could do, but realistically, at least in my experience of playing this game, you're gonna pick a handful of combos and just kind of get through the game with them. Even on the harder difficulty, you're not gonna use all the moves at your disposal, which kind of sucks. Let's talk about the pros of the combat now. When you're on a roll, it does feel satisfying. It's not completely garbage. It is actually still satisfying to play and cut through enemies and have fun with it. There's all these little cool effects where you could behead people or gut them and all sorts of pretty neat, vicious stuff that I feel like fits this game's theme really well. So while it's not the best, it works, and the game is not so challenging that you're gonna hit a roadblock and not be able to pass it because of the crappy controls. So it's shallow. It is there. I will say, if you go in expecting a super fast-paced game like Neji Black or Devil May Cry or God of War, you're gonna be disappointed. This game, the closest thing, and this may kind of date me, is it reminds me of Super Double Dragon on the Super Nintendo. It's a side-scroller beat 'em up. It's pretty shallow, but you can't button mash your way through the game. There is some sort of timing, and you have to hit the right buttons to perform the right combos. You can't just press X and hope for the best. So that's all I really got to say about the combat system. I wish it was done better, but unfortunately this is what it was released with, and this is what we have to work with. So let's talk about the highlight of this game. And it's gonna feel weird to say this because it's not actually the combat or the gameplay. It's the atmosphere of the overall experience of playing this. So the art style, the sound effects, the music, the noise in the background, that's what makes this game. It feels so weird to say, but it just was such an incredible experience that even though it's short, even though the combat's not the best, it's a game I've played multiple times, and I will play it again and have fun with it. It almost feels like you're playing an old school samurai movie in video game format. It's just so, it's like cinematic without a ton of cutscenes. Like playing it feels cinematic. So that makes up for any shortcomings it had. Of course, I wish the other ones were better. If the gameplay was phenomenal, this game, I could see it just like really taking off and doing even better. And I really hope if they do a sequel, or if they do any other game with this style, which I hope they do, they fine-tune the combat. Because it's a shame that the combat is what holds it down, but everything else is phenomenal. So like I said, it's so weird to say this because it's a video game, but the experience and the atmosphere that you're sucked into make up for the shortcomings of the other stuff. And it was done so well that it actually really does make up for it. And I had a blast playing through it. Okay guys, that's all there really is to say. I know this review is super short, but honestly this was such a short, simple game. There's not a ton of detail to go into. I will say I have played it multiple times. I'm gonna play it again. It is on Xbox Game Pass. If you have that, I would recommend checking it out. It's one of the best games I've played on this service in a long time. And not just that, but I would say it's worth buying it. The game's $20, and I think that's more than fair for what this game has to offer. It's short, it's compact, but it's so much fun, and it will absorb you, especially if you enjoy old samurai movies or just kind of the samurai atmosphere. The game truly shines in that regard, and it's phenomenal. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. And also, I do stream these games on Twitch before I review them. I will leave the link in the description below of my Twitch. Feel free to stop in anytime and just talk about some of the games I'm playing before they come out and I'm reviewing them, and catch me playing them live. Alright guys, that's all I gotta say. Have a good night.